Good morning, Garden family. The fact that I'm standing here today, sharing my journey in God as a new believer, is not something I would have ever dreamed of, planned on, or predicted. Like my birth time, location, who my parents would be, coming to America, none of these was under my control, not even my next breath. And it only took me 50 years to come to realization that I'm not the master of my fate, nor the captain of my soul. Today's sharing is not about me. It's dedicated to the handpicked ambassadors of God who he has placed one after another in my life, leading me to him. At age 25, I came to America, and the first ambassador appeared. I was a professor Ho. She invited me to a Christmas dinner. 5 years later, my friend Shirley invited me to her Bible study, and then a retreat where I almost accepted Christ. For the next 5 years, a friend at work, Lonnie, he always talked about God, openly and boldly. The light and hope in his eyes burned into my memory. Then it was quiet 12 years until 2016. A persistent ambassador, my dear friend Kathy, invited me to CG Christmas party. And I started an 8-year-long journey to God through CG under her mentorship. Kathy kept on inviting me each season. Sometimes I didn't want to go, but she was so persistent. And she loved and cared for me and my family with all her heart. She showed me how many amazing ways one can love another. The community I experienced was welcoming, nurturing, and pleasant to my heart. The ladies at CG individually and collectively have made a difference. This is the hub for my understanding of God's words and people. I had glimpses of heaven during CG time. That's how good CG is. And the people I encountered at church are so genuine and humble. I knew this is the right place. Meanwhile, my friend Andrew and many others at her Chinese church earnestly worked and also tried on the side to lead me to God as well. But my understanding of God was only in my head until in August last year when I saw these graphs. I was living on a throne for 50 years, but stressed to the breaking point that change had to happen. So when I saw Christ on the throne, and I simply listened, that was an instant good deal for me. So I decided to let go of the burdens and hand them over to God. But I didn't believe God's death and resurrection yet. And God arranged my friend Janice to bring me the book, The Case for Christ. Kathy actually took me to the movie years ago, but I couldn't understand anything back then. And this time, I was convinced because my heart was open. About a month before my coming to Christ, David said to me in two separate conversations, based on my 30 years experience, Amy, you're ready. I insisted, no. But his certainty got my attention subconsciously. November last year, I decided to accept Christ halfway through The Purpose-Driven Life. This is my favorite book. The first sentence in the book, anyone remember? It is not about you. That was a game changer, eye-opener, and constant reminder for me. So after accepting Christ, I prayed to God for assignments. He heard me, and he has been working nonstop. He is a true promise keeper. Now here's a few areas that he has been touching on in my life, and there's stories actually behind every single one of them. Gratitude, courage, forgiveness, laziness, kindness, generosity, pride, contentment, submit. Someone will like this one, to my husband. Submit to my husband. Gratitude, heaven and death, compassion, enjoy myself, sacrifice, greed, commitment. God has done a lot in merely 6 months, and I was exhausted. According to my husband, I have changed 50%. I don't know if that's good or bad. I have a short list of before and after accepting Christ, and you can decide. um, Before, I'm a good person. What sin? After accepting Christ, I confess in prayers daily. Before, money, shoes, I could always take a little extra. After, feel like I feel like a lottery winner, and I'm learning to let go of the chains of the worldly value. Before, my way or no way, I hated surprises. After, more attentive to interruptions. How is he growing me today, and how is he using me today? Before, life was a roller coaster. The highs and lows are determined by the exterior factors, good things and bad things. After, it's still a roller coaster ride, but the highs are when I'm close to God, and lows are when I know I need to come to God. Before, I loved God's wisdom. I wanted God to work for my life. After, I decided to let go of my own wisdom. I'm trying to be obedient to God. Before, I was self-centered. After, I remind myself it's not about me. Before, anxiety. I was living in the future. After, my senses are awakened. I mindfully slow down to taste the bite in my mouth, to hear the bird in the yard, and I feel more compassionate to people in agony. Before, I relied on self-help books with superficial changes that didn't last. After, I rely on God's words and lots of prayers. I feel I'm deconstructed by God and reassembled back piece by piece to his liking. He's scanning me head to toe, pinpointing what, where, and how the changes should happen. So that's just a short list of the changes that's been happening in my life. And now I'm experimenting a relationship with God through prayers, which was very awkward for me in the very beginning. And Kathy gave me this book, Too Busy Not to Pray. The most important thing I learned from this book is to listen, which is really challenging because I run out of patience after 3 minutes sitting there. So no wonder they say faith requires work, like growing your muscles. In my prayer on April 17th, next slide, please. The revelation of Princess came to me, so I had the urge to write. And this poem, I'm sorry, it's probably you can't read it. It just flew out of me. I'll read it to you. I'm a princess. If you're a king, I'm your daughter. Then a princess I am, wearing a pink tutu, dancing bare feet. Worry-free because a king is my father. Promise-filled because my father is the king. No dream is a dream anymore because nothing is impossible with my father. No burden is a burden anymore because, don't mean to brag, but a king is my father. I dance in accord with his melody, bare feet in pink tutu, dee-da-dee. Pink is not my color. Tutu never did, never will. Bare feet, my son can tell you how much I dislike it. But the message here from God is very, very clear to me. And here, I want to thank two most important people, since we're talking about prayers in my life, who have been supporting me 100% on the journey, not just the prayers, but it's my husband, Kwan, and my son, Zayden. They do not know God yet, but they remind me if I forget to pray before a meal. I love you both, but more importantly, God loves you, and you shall see. My life forward, eyes on Jesus, hope in heaven, gratitude and love for everything in between. It's all very lofty goals, I know, but don't you forget, I'm a princess, and my father is the king. To wrap up today, I want to share with you a photo up there taken by my son on a road trip a few hours after my baptism this Easter Sunday. I sought after the Lord. He heard and he answered. That's why I trust him. There will be rainy days, but God's promises are on the way. I hope you have counted how many ambassadors that have appeared in my life to lead me to God. I think Pastor David has a gift card for you.